Hi, my name is Orla O'Sullivan, and I'm delighted to be part of this. I first came in contact with CCE at the very initial Rotterdam meeting back in September 2018, and it was a very vibrant space to connect together and learn from each other and explore good steps for the future. So today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about the work of Wake Up Schools and our approach to mindfulness in education. So, Wake Up Schools is a grassroots organisation that is international, and it seeks to realise Thich Nhat Hanh's vision for mindfulness in education. And we have three core pillars that underpin why or how we do what we do. The first pillar is embodiment. And in Wake Up Schools, we always begin with teachers. We focus on teachers to help them establish their presence so that they can have the maximum impact. So if we can support the teachers, then the whole classroom changes subtly anyway. And it's not a kind of a linear curriculum that Wake Up Schools gives out. It's a way of being. So we really encourage teachers to embody the practice for themselves first, so that they become a stable presence for themselves, for their families, for the classroom, for the school. And the second pillar of Wake Up Schools is service. And this is really where kind of our ethical underpinnings come out very strongly, is that we foster a spirit of generosity and of kindness in ourselves, so that the attitude that we take as we walk into a classroom is an open, kind attitude. And we know that the greatest gift we have for teaching is our presence. So probably the most long-term effect of anything that we transmit is how our students feel about us. So we know that this is an offering of kindness for ourselves and for everybody else. And then the third pillar of Wake Up Schools is community. So our happiness is not an individual matter. So in Wake Up Schools, we really train teachers to see a wider, deeper picture, so that we can build communities that are ethical, that can experience happiness in this moment, even when there are lots of challenges around, and where everyone can be heard and can know that they belong very deeply. So we learn how to be together, how to live together. And our capacity building work is very much based on these principles. So it's a very organic approach. It looks very different in different countries, in different schools, different ages. And the timelines are also very different. So it's not a set in 6 weeks something will happen, or in 10 weeks, or even a year. So the work of Wake Up Schools grows very organically in different environments. Usually a teacher first engages with us by coming on a level 1 retreat. So it's a 1-week retreat that we offer to help support teachers to learn the practice of mindfulness. And this is really about embedding mindfulness as a way of being. So usually on day 1, we encourage teachers to put down their notebooks. We say, like, there's no learning outcome. There's no question of what does success look like. We actually encourage them to know that it's okay to put down your notebook and to simply come home to your body and to learn how to take care of yourself. So this is about embedding mindfulness as a way of being. And in that way, it doesn't really matter so much what you're teaching, because who you are is establishing you are creating a classroom where students can thrive, where they feel safe, they feel listened to, they know how to take care of themselves. And there's one senior teacher in Wake Up Schools, Richard Bready, who's an American, he's an American Dharma teacher, And he taught maths his whole life, but he tells a lovely story about meeting a past pupil maybe 15 years after this man had graduated, and the man had gone on to work for the World Bank. So Richard and he were catching up, and the pupil said, "Oh, what is it that you do now? Because I heard you retired." And Richard said, "Oh yeah, I did retire from maths, but I do a lot of work with Wake Up Schools." And immediately the pupil went, "I remember you taught me how to wash the dishes." And Richard was like, "What?" And he was like, "You taught me how to clean up. You taught me how to clean up in a way, because usually we clean up just to get it done, to get on to something else. And we kind of throw away that moment of our life." And what this student remembered was that Richard taught him how to clean up just to clean up. Like just to stay in that moment of cleaning up and not to throw away and not to waste that moment. And he said, "This is still how I clean up." And so, although clearly the maths lessons were great because he went on to work with the World Bank, you know, what Richard transmitted to him was more than just maths. You know, it was about how he can live an awake life in the smallest moments of his life. So our Wake Up Schools approach is very much an ethos. It's something that is infused within the school and within the community. And that's what makes it sustainable. So we use explicitly ethical supports. Mindfulness, as we practice it, as part of an eightfold path. It's part of a way of living, and it's also to do with how we think, what actions we take, how we engage together. So it's never not a practical thing. It is never an intellectual point of learning. And the first name for Wake Up Schools was called Applied Ethics. So when Wake Up Schools was first formed, in France, Nicolas Sarkozy had invited anyone who might be able to help the pupils in France to form an ethical dimension to their life. So he wanted to bring ethics into the classroom. And so the very first kind of emanation of Wake Up Schools in a classroom was applied ethics. And that is still, you know, that is how we approach the practice of mindfulness, is as right mindfulness. It's as the approach of living a life. So we have on a level 1 retreat, we always give teachers the opportunity to listen to and learn more about the 5 mindfulness trainings. So these are they're like a little beautiful constellation of stars that help guide our path. And they are very practical teachings on how we can live our life. And each of the trainings begins aware of the suffering caused by. So actually, this is really about deepening our understanding. So they're not so kind of waggle, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. They're a doorway into deepening our understanding of the effects of our actions and of how we can cause ourselves less suffering and how we can cause each other less suffering in our life. So we always transmit them on retreat, and that's always a very powerful part of the retreat. It gives teachers a tangible support and connection to go away with and to help to foster in their daily life. And there's a version as well for children called the 2 Promises that are very simple. We vow to develop understanding so that we can live peacefully with everything. And we vow to develop our compassion so that we can help to protect ourselves and each other. And to see the children learn to kind of explore the 2 promises is, again, always a very tangible support in helping them live mindfully and ethically every day. And it comes up in very simple ways. So, for example, food is a thing that we all can enjoy together as a community. So before we eat together, we take a moment to practice. So there are contemplations before eating that really just help us to wake up to this moment of sharing nourishment together. You know, that we are receiving a gift. There are hundreds or thousands of people and lives that have been involved in giving us this gift. And how do we want that energy to continue? You know, what do we want this nutritional energy to become in the hours ahead? So it gives us like a little kind of shining moment before we eat together. And it helps us, it tends to It tends to mean that food tastes a little more tasty because we're present for our food. So often we're on autopilot when we eat, and the 5 contemplations really help wake us up to our food. So, and with the contemplations, like, the priority is not telling you what to eat or what not to eat. Like, it's a deepening of an awareness, aware of the suffering that's in our food, and the joy that can continue through our food. So this approach that we take it's like kind of refined SEL in a way. We begin with the individual and we help them to infuse the groups that they're already part of, with a clear foundation of ethics, with ways to communicate, so that with ways to take care of disharmony, so that they can build happier communities just where they are, so without anything else needing to change. So I thought I would share 3 examples of projects that inspire us. And I thought I would start in Vietnam with the Peaceful Bamboo Family. So Lisi Havin is the director of the Eurasia Foundation. She has decades of experience in special education and education. And she's also a Dharmacharya in our tradition. And the Peaceful Bamboo Family is this vibrant living community for young adults who are living with disabilities in the Hue province. They also do vocational training, so these young adults learn skills for life, for their own career. They often develop social entrepreneurship projects, so it's very inspiring to see what they build. It has formed into a residential community, and they live a mindful daily life. So before meals, they read the contemplations. There's a bell of mindfulness where the whole community agrees to pause when they hear the bell and to come back to themselves and take a moment. So it's really built in as part of their daily life. They have a biodynamic farm, so they grow a lot of their own food, and nature really is a classroom for them. So the importance of the ecology, the planet, what they're growing, is another teaching environment for them. And what's very inspiring is that school groups from all around the province come in to learn from these young adults. So these young adults who have like intellectual or physical disabilities, often not in a position to be a teacher, actually teach their children all around them. So it is this approach to being together is really beginning to transform communities in this area. And then twinned with that, there's a Happy Schools program in Vietnam, which is headed by Havin Tho. So he is founder of the Eurasia Learning Institute for Happiness and Wellbeing. He's also a teacher in our tradition. These are both kind of huge wake-up school supporters. And this program has trained hundreds of teachers in Vietnam and impacted thousands of students. And their approach is that they work in kind of 3 circles. So they learn, an individual, when we're thriving, we learn to develop our own full potential. We learn to live in harmony with others, and we learn to respect our planet. So we learn to respect and protect our environment and live in harmony with nature. And these are also done according to gross national happiness principles. So these 2 projects are having a very deep impact on not simply the core pupils involved, but then their families and their own schools. Politicians have visited, so they have learned how to live a mindful daily life. So you can find out more about them at Eurasia. And then in India, Ahimsa Trust's work is super inspiring. Wake Up Schools works very closely with Ahimsa, so they're very much the arm of Wake Up Schools in India. And one of the guiding teachers of Ahimsa is Shantum Seth. So Shantum is on the board of CCE as an advisor. And he has been an advisor to the World Bank, to the United Nations Development Programme. And with Ahimsa, they are doing tremendous work based in Dehradun of training teachers. And they're getting teachers at the point of when they're training to be a teacher. So they're getting teachers very early on their journey, and they're learning ways to embed this as an approach, as a way of being for life. So with Ahimsa, teachers learn how to form communities together. So it's not simply a program that they take in and then they go away and pass on. This is a way of being with other teachers to support each other for life. And then I thought I would share a tiny bit about another program, because Thich Nhat Hanh's vision for mindfulness and education continues to manifest in different ways around the world, and it adapts to very different learning environments. So obviously with the pandemic, our learning environments have changed quite drastically this year. And in the University of Languages and International Studies in Hanoi, one of our happy teachers, Anle Hogia, she's just completed a 16-week mindfulness journey with 25 leaders and lecturers. And as part of this course, she used Happy Teachers as a core text. So as people learned how to practice, they were referred to happy teachers. So they used this as a living way of embodying the practice as a support. Students were encouraged to connect with Plum Village, to try out the Plum Village app, which I would highly recommend. And then on completing the course, these leaders decided to form their own community group. So now they have a group of leaders who practice mindfulness, and they meet weekly to support each other and to practice together. And the University of Languages and International Studies now plans to introduce mindfulness as a core module for all of its students. So it's very encouraging to see how these initiatives can grow and can really bed down, can really kind of sink deep roots in, when they have the space to grow in an organic way according to that particular institution or that particular environment. So, I mean, to sum up with this, this is an approach rather than a program. This is how we live our lives, including our working lives. And mindfulness is a path, and it's, mindfulness is not a tool for us. It's very much a path. And so, in line with the vision for education in CCE, the vision is to do with the whole person in their whole context. So where this starts is obviously with the classroom and also with the family, these small groups that we belong to in our lives. So with I work a lot with schools and teachers. I also run a community group for children to practice with the grown-ups in their lives. And as a family, we can learn together according to our abilities. So if we want to develop initiatives that have a lifelong impact, I feel it is crucial for parents to be involved, and not simply to know about it or think, oh, that might be valuable, but to actually, when you get the chance to experience it alongside your child, it has such an influence. And it's so influential for the children to see their key grown-ups learning to take care of habits of anxiety or anger, learning to nourish their joy and their happiness. And at the same time, we all learn how to listen to each other, how to share together. So the energy that we're putting into these kind of spaces is not in terms of what we want to teach, but in terms of how we want to be. So these are often circles. We try and make it as equal as possible, where everyone belongs, where everyone can be heard, everyone knows they're appreciated. And we have deliberate practices to help evoke these states where you are deeply listened to, where you can sense what you appreciate in other people, and where you can grow and heal together. So whether that's a classroom, a family, or a whole community, that form of embodied collective growth supports everyone long term. And, and that can transform societies. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this has inspired you a little to explore kind of the deep way that mindfulness practice can actually help us to live kind, awake, open lives. Thich Nhat Hanh says that our mission as teachers is not just to transmit knowledge, but to form human beings. So the work that we do as teachers is profoundly influential. So we can help people to learn how to take care of themselves and their suffering, how to nourish their happiness and joy, how to live together in harmony, and how to protect this planet that is our home. So we really have a profound opportunity as teachers to affect 30 lives at a time that will affect so many more. So this really can profoundly change our society.